On Christmas night, I moved in with my boyfriend's mother. She was on Section 8 housing, so no one could know I was living there, or she would lose her Section 8 housing. She was a troubled woman who suffered from bipolar disorder and addictions of her own. And when I got with my boyfriend, I made it very clear that I didn't care if he smoked or drank, because I was kind of used to that. But if he got into all the synthetic pills and stuff like that, we were done. I was not one for cocaine or pills or heroin or anything like that. I ended up choosing one evil for another. My boyfriend's mother had a very bad drinking problem, and on top of that, she was on antidepressants and mood stabilizers. So mixing the two just don't mix. But I love my boyfriend, and I was doing everything I could to stay with him, as well as put a roof over my head. So I paid all the bills to the best of my ability. Rent, utilities, my own bills as well, as long as trying to give her money to go and play with. I would get my boyfriend's car repaired because his dad forced him to buy a car that he didn't really want, and honestly, it was a hoopty. It was a really crappy car. And it was my boyfriend's senior year. I had also given him money to go on a senior trip, things like that. Hindsight, looking back, I will tell my daughters, don't do that. Okay? Don't give your boyfriend money. If he needs money, he needs to go out and work for it. But I had a car, which I let him borrow. I had money that I should have been saving instead of wasting it on him and his mother. But I did everything I could. And oftentimes I would come home, and at this point I was working at a warehouse temporarily, and I would work the overnight shift. So I would come home at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes to find all of my stuff, clothes and belongings, out on the street, gone through either by her or by people in our community, because honestly, we did not live in a good neighborhood. It was very much a ghetto, full of many different kinds of gangs you could possibly think of. All my stuff would be ransacked through. He would come over and go, "Ma, what's going on? She cares for you. She's paying all your bills. She gives you extra money. What's up?" And she'd go, "I just don't like her." He would make nice, and I would have a place to live. It wasn't easy, that's for sure. I knew it wasn't going to be forever. So when he did graduate from high school, he wasn't college bound either. He decided he wanted to get into the working world. And his dad and stepmom were moving out to Missouri and wanted him to come with them, thinking that, maybe a fresh start would do him some good. Well, he didn't want to do that. I definitely wasn't welcome to come with them, and he did not want to leave his mother behind. He was always a mama's boy, and he had no problem saying that. And when his parents got divorced, she felt, and he felt, like their father had abandoned her, actually. His father ended up getting full custody of him, and she only got partial custody, like on every other weekend. Understandably so, with the addiction problems and her mental disabilities, she wasn't able to provide and care for herself, nevertheless, her child. So my boyfriend found it to be his responsibility to stay, at least in the state, so that way he could care for her, watch over her, make sure she didn't need anything. And that was nice. As soon as he got out of high school, he started working for a local restaurant delivering pizzas. And shortly after that, we, with the help of his grandmother, were able to get a new car. I was working at that restaurant as well. Stopped working at a McDonald's and started working at this restaurant. And we were both working 6 days a week, 12 to 14-hour shifts. The only day off we would have normally consisted of us doing whatever chores we needed to do and laundry that needed to be done. We also were able to get our own place. His aunt was managing his family's properties, and one came up for rent. And so we were offered the house to rent. It wasn't the best house, it was quite a shack, but they'd put some work into it, and it was ours. Shortly after he started working for that restaurant, they had asked him to break down a desk and put it in the dumpster. And when he did that, he didn't break it down all the way and lifted half of a desk over his head and into a dumpster. And when he did that, he injured himself so bad that he was a fracture away from breaking his back. It almost broke his back. The first thing we did was take him to the doctor, and the first thing they did was put him on pain medication, in which he was on that pain medication for quite a few months. It was a little hard getting some of the workman comp info from the restaurant, but we did get it, and he started going to physical therapy. But during that time, he couldn't work. It took a few months. Workman's comp also does not pay your full income, and some, if not most of the money that we were making was also under the table in tips. So we were making a lot less money than usual. I continued to work for the restaurant while he continued to try to get better. That year for Christmas, I tried saving up to $200. I knew my mom always gave us a limit for Christmas every year of $200. So I thought that would be a good dollar amount to save up to and try to give ourselves a good Christmas, being we had kind of a hard year. I knew that his cousin would come over and hang out with him, play video games, smoke weed, you name it. There were always friends and people over. My boyfriend was quite the social guy, and he knew a lot of people in the area. When it came time for me to go get that money, though, it wasn't there. And I had never told him I was saving it. So either him or his cousin must have taken it, but it was gone. And I was not able to provide him with a Christmas that year. And that was the beginning of many years that we couldn't provide Christmas to each other. As much as we struggled that year, he did start going back to work. And, well, life got a little better again. We decided that we were going to go ahead and bring my brother up from Alabama to Maryland for the summer. As a little girl, I had spent summers in Alabama, often drove down, stayed for about 6 weeks, and be driven back up. So I wanted to do something similar for my brother. That summer, or that spring, I should say, we went ahead and paid all of our bills. Everything, all of our bills were at zero. We started that Friday with no money, going, it's okay. It's Friday night. We're going to make good money tonight. We know this. So all the money that we make here on just goes towards gas and getting us down to Alabama and back. That night, my boyfriend was trying to grab a pack of cigarettes that had fallen on the floor while going around a turn. He drove the car into a ditch, rolled it, and it caught on fire, totaling our car. I started that Friday night with no money and ended with pretty much no money and in debt because that was a new car. We took what money we had from the insurance and bought ourselves a little beater car. But this was 2 weeks before I was supposed to go get my brother. And my mother knew that I had worked really hard, making minimum wage, working tips, the whole nine to get to where we were, and decided that she would take it upon herself to purchase a round-trip airfare for my brother to come up and stay with me for the summer. It was a very kind gesture, and so my brother came up that summer. It wasn't easy. At the same time my brother came up, I decided to go work for a different warehouse, a greeting card warehouse. I wanted Monday through Friday hours, 9 to 5, weekends off, health insurance, 401k. I wanted that. And so that's what I went to go get. It wasn't easy while my brother was up there because honestly, we didn't have that much money. And for the first few weeks, we didn't even have food. I didn't even know that there were things called food banks and that you could go to churches or whatever and get food. We just starved, honestly. But after a few weeks, we were able to get some paychecks in and things started looking better. My brother suffered from ADHD. He was always very hyper. It wasn't easy for my dad all the time. And honestly, my dad very much was hoping that this would make a change for him, which it did. And when he went back to Alabama, my dad said, I don't know what you did, but he calmed down a lot. And I think part of it was him seeing this is what the real life is like. Don't judge dad too badly. And when I say dad, I mean my biological father. I wanted my brother to see that this is what life was like and that, don't judge people too harshly when they're just trying what they can to make do. While I was working for the greeting card warehouse, my boyfriend continued to work for the restaurant. And one night he left the keys in the car, which they always told us not to do. And someone had hopped in the car and stolen it. Now let me get this pretty straight here. It was like a 1991 Chevy Cavalier. It wasn't a nice car. It was a hoopty, and it wasn't even full of gas. They did eventually find it. We were never able to retrieve it because we didn't have the money to retrieve it. But they did find it on the side of the highway. Nothing wrong with it, just out of gas. When this happened, well, my boyfriend could no longer deliver pizzas, and they put him to work in the restaurant. He absolutely hated it. And when this happened, my dad said, look, you can have my truck, but if I find out that anyone else other than you has driven it, I will take it back. And if I remember correctly, we did get it tagged and titled in my name, but I still obeyed him because I didn't know if he knew people around. And when I moved out to my uncle's house, my mom told me, where you are, I have friends and people will be watching you. And my mother did not befriend the most savory of people. It was very unnerving at all times to know that someone, even if they were in a gang, knew my mother and could be watching you. So I kind of expected the same when my dad said, if I find out that anyone but you is driving this vehicle, I will take it from you. And I kind of expected that. I mean, what was I really going to do? Call the cops on my dad? Probably not. Around this time was when my mother's addiction problems were coming to light a little bit more with my dad. The reason why was because, there's no kids at home to be the scapegoat anymore. There's no one to say, oh, she pushed me, she hurt me, she did this, she did that. My grandmother had since passed away. I had been kicked out of the house. And, as much as they thought life was going to be great and hunky-dory, Mom's addictions kept coming further and further into light. One time, my mother fell down the stairs popping blueberries. And I mean, like literally popping them in her mouth while she was walking up the stairs. We don't really know what she was thinking, but we know that she was high. And she fell down the whole flight of stairs, breaking her shoulder. She ended up getting surgery on that. And once again, more pain medication was prescribed. It happens often with breaks. It's understandable. But what isn't understandable is taking a month's worth of pain medication in 1 week. Doctors were starting to refuse to prescribe my mother any medication at all. And at this point, my dad tries to reach out to my sister and says, something's up. We got to do something. So my mom ends up finding a doctor who did nothing but pain management, which means that all he really did was prescribe pain medication to her. Now, in these days, pain management can mean a number of things. It means that not only would they prescribe pain medication, but they may do other things like nerve blocking, cortisone shots, physical therapy, all sorts of different ways to alleviate pain. But this doctor in particular, all he did was push pain medication. And so at one point, he had my mom prescribed 210 milligrams of OxyContin a day. A lot of the problems that were going on between my mom and dad were really unbeknownst to me. Reason why was because, you know what, I was on my own, doing my own thing. And unless my dad or mom called me and told me, hey, I'm in the hospital or something along those lines, I just let it be. This is what they wanted. We still had our monthly ER visits for the swollen abdomen with the bowel blockages and things like that. That was nothing different. But every once in a while, my mother would get into a drunken stupor or whatever, and she would hurt herself in some way, shape, or form, like when she fell down the stairs. And in this particular instance, they had cell phones now. And I found it quite uncanny that now they had cell phones. But we told them the point behind cell phones is that you carry it with you. So if something happens like this, you can call for help. My mother wasn't carrying her cell phone with her that day, and she literally laid on the floor for hours calling for help until someone came. Shortly after that was when they realized that my mother was severely abusing her pain medication. Not only was she given pain medication for that injury, she was also on 210 milligrams of OxyContin a day from the pain management specialist. And one day, my sister went to go check on my mom to see how things were going. And she found out that my mom had been snorting 210 milligrams of OxyContin up her nose. And that sometimes she wouldn't even take her medicine so she could save it to do much more later. With my mom abusing her medication the way it was, my sister and my dad were able to talk her into going to rehab. My mom did agree to go. And every time they reached out to a rehab, all they would say is, I'm sorry, but the medication is prescribed to her, so however she takes it is really on her. She's not doing anything illegal, and it's really prescribed to her, so she can take it however she wants. It was quite befuddling to both me and my sister that it didn't matter how she took it. It didn't matter. As long as she took it, that's all they cared about. This was when my mom started telling us, sure, I'll go to rehab. I'll do this. I'll do that just to get out of the hospital, just to get out of whatever trouble she was in. And then she would go home and go, I'm not doing that. And then we would go through all the work of trying to find a rehab just to be told we can't either get her in for a few weeks or because it's prescribed to her, it's not illegal. And you don't have to force them into a rehab facility. So during this time, I did nothing. I did my life and tried to make my life better because I couldn't change mom. And I knew that when I left home. I couldn't help someone who didn't want to be helped. And now my sister was starting to go through it again with her. At that time, my boyfriend really hated working inside the restaurant. So when a position opened up in the balloon warehouse portion of my company that I was working for, I offered my boyfriend services. And now we're both working Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, weekends off, health insurance, 401k. Life was good. We had our own place. It was a nice place. We had our own dog. We had friends. And we had decided it was time to get married. We had been together for about 3 years. Kmart was having a sale on jewelry, like 70% off, and I had picked the engagement ring that I would like to have. And I remember saying, hey, this would be a really nice engagement ring. And he never really asked. He just said, okay. It was kind of my idea to get married. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. We went to Kmart and we go to the jewelry counter and she said, oh, you guys are getting married. How did he propose? And he just looked at me and went, will you marry me? And I said, fuck it, why not? And then looked at her and went, yep, there it is. That's what it was. That's it. He just proposed. And she was just kind of astonished and also mortified at the same time. And I remember us, getting the ring and deciding to tell family. And I remember my family being pretty excited and happy and like, okay, great. Yeah, you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. You're living a good life. You're getting married. You're doing it all in order. Except for living together. We lived together before we got married. And I remember going to his grandmother and like, look at the ring. And she did not look that happy. And I remember his parents being kind of happy, but she was just kind of like, oh, you're getting married. Now remember that at this point I'm 20, 21, and, I've been pretty much living an adult life for a while, even prior to being kicked out. I've been working hard most of my teenage years trying to do all the right things in all the right order. And so we proceed to start planning our wedding. One day, I'm at work, and I remember my boss telling me, who knew me fairly well and knew my boyfriend fairly well, I don't know if you guys should get married. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I don't know. I just have this feeling. You guys are young. There's a lot more for you guys to go through. I don't know if this is exactly what you should be doing. And I just kind of brushed it away. My dad was happy. He actually funded the whole reception. My boyfriend's grandmother had worked for this church for 50 years and was able to get us married at the church for free as a donation to her for her 50 years of service. And my dad pretty much paid $8,000 in food and alcohol and bartender and a band and putting together this huge, beautiful party in his backyard. Life was great. Or it was going to be great. And while we start planning our wedding, I get a call at work. And it's my dad. And I'm like, hey, you don't typically call me at work. What's going on? And he said, well, I'm at the emergency room with your mom. And I'm like, okay, same shit, different day? And he's like, yep, same shit, different day. The only problem is that normally when your mother has these bowel blockages, they stick an NG tube down her nose to clear out whatever bile and poop, let's say, that's in there, give her bowels a rest, and then, everything goes back to normal. I'm like, okay. Problem is that's not working this time. Well, that's not great. Well, so then what do we do next? Well, they're talking surgery, like emergency surgery. Oh, yeah, I think you need to let your work know because I think she's going into surgery tonight. And I don't know if she's going to make it through the surgery. I let my work know that, my mom was in the hospital and they knew that I had a sick mother and that she was in the ER and in the hospital often for these bowel blockages. But this time might be her last.